Hi, I'm doing a repair on my canoe today. I actually started doing the repair, but then it dawned on me that perhaps some folks might like to see what I'm doing. I can show you how the process works, etc. I'm not an expert by any means. I did this once to the boat that you see hanging up there. It's fairly easy to do for anyone who has, some basic skills and patience and time, etc. So what I have is a Placid Boatworks Rapidfire Canoe. It's a 15-foot, very lightweight canoe, carbon fiber and Kevlar makeup. And I'm going to be doing some repairs to the gel coat today. This boat is 10 years old and I use it. As you can see, I use it. I've gone down streams, I've gone over beaver dams, I've bumped into a few rocks along the way, and as you can see, it's a well-used one and it's held up well. But basically, these boats can be a little bit on the delicate side. To keep it in good shape, sometimes you have to do repairs to the gel coat. This is the first time I've ever done this in the 10 years I've owned it. Basically, this is what you see when you get a little bit of damage and cracking. If you look right here, the gel coat has cracked. It's got a little crack in the gel coat. The gel coat is separating a little bit from the fabric underneath. Now, this doesn't actually leak, but over time, more and more water will work its way under the coating on the outside of the gel coat. It'll start to separate. Now, I've already started to do a repair. I had a similar thing over here. And what I did was, by taking a little razor knife, I basically just chip out any loose gel coat that's there. So it's actually pretty easy to start to get under the loose gel coat. You just kind of pick at it a little bit and scrape it. The trick is to try not to push too much pressure because the blade can move across and do a big scratch in it. But I basically just carefully work the razor knife in. And you can see right there, a chunk of it came off and you can start to see the fabric underneath. And you can see that the damage goes here, it kind of zigzags down here, and it's some over here. So this is a fairly large area that I'm going to be working on. Anytime I see a crack, you still have to kind of clean that crack out, because otherwise, after you apply the new gel coat, you'll be able to see that crack underneath, and you don't want that. Plus, by eliminating the crack, it eliminates the way for water to potentially get back in there and, just do the damage all over again. So I ended up finding more areas of damage than I thought. And I figured, might as well do it all while I'm doing this. So yeah, I have this small area here, a little bit longer one here, going along the hull, little area here, that's 3. This area here, 4. Keep going along, another area, 5, 6, and that's just on one side of the boat. If I come around the boat, I've got 7. Little tiny one here, 8, 9, and 10 right here. And this long skinny one, making 11 areas of damage that I'm going to be repairing today. So after you've gotten all the loose gel coat off, you take some 120 grit sandpaper, and you basically just kind of sand down just the area immediately around it. This is really to help the new gel coat adhere. Don't sand too heavy. You don't want to get into the fabric and start to damage the fabric underneath. You really want to just kind of smooth out the edges of the repair and overlap it a little bit so that the gel coat has something to hold on to. So after you're done, roughing up the area, basically just clean the area with acetone. So this is what the kit looks like from Placid Boatworks. So they include the gel coat itself. They also include the catalyst, and you can see you don't need much catalyst, really just, I think it says 5 drops for every ounce. They do include a little buffing compound, a couple of cups to mix things in, a little popsicle stick, gloves. And then they have the progressive sandpaper. You dry sand with the 120 grit, and then you wet sand progressively 320 down to whatever this is, 500 and so on and so forth. I know that this is marked 30 milliliters, but I know that's a little less, or I'm sorry, an ounce is a little bit less than that. So if I squeeze this out, kind of get to maybe about there, I've got the gel coat here. So I'll pour that into one of the cups. Whoa, there. So now what you want to do is you basically just take the gel coat and you want to put it on so that it sticks up a little bit. I'm on not on a level surface, so this is might drip down just a little bit here, but I'll try to work it as best I can. It's pretty easy to work with, this stuff. And you can see I only used a tiny little bit to fill that one repair. So I should have enough for the whole thing. As you can see, it's dripping down a little bit. Try to spread that out a little bit. And I don't want to run into low spots, so I'll put a little bit kind of on the top of it there. I'll come back and check that one in a minute. So that worked well. That 1 ounce of gel coat filled all my repairs. Now, it did, because I have the boat sitting in the position that it's in, it did run down the side a little bit. So that means I'm gonna have to do a little more sanding. And my guess is, looking at it, that I'm probably gonna have to do another really thin coat of gel coat to fill in those low spots, but we'll see. I put quite a bit on, and like I said, you can just sand the excess away. So the dripping that happened definitely causing me some extra sanding. This sandpaper that comes with the kit though is very good. And even though this looks like it's going to take quite a while, it actually goes fairly quickly. I'm going to put the video camera down so I can work on this a bit. So here's the same spot after 5 minutes of sanding. So this is just a couple minutes later, and now I'm gonna actually use the sandpaper outside of the block so I can work a little bit more precisely on these areas that are still a little high. Now here's that same area after about 10 minutes of sanding, and I feel that that's close enough. I can start going with the wet sandpaper after this. So here's what it looks like after the first wet sand with the 320 grit sandpaper. The wet sanding with the 320 grit takes off all those scratch marks from the, 120 grit. And then finally, this is what it looks like after all the wet sanding. You work through 4 levels of wet sandpaper, the final one being 1500 grit. And these are the areas that I'm going to polish out with the buffing compound. And this is my little buffer that I'm going to use to buff the boat out. So here's the first 3 areas buffed out. At this point, I'm going to kind of wait and see how the rest of the boat turns out before I decide whether I'm going to do a little bit more sanding on that. So here's the next area that I repaired. I mean, I can see some imperfections in the repair when I look at it, but I think this is going to be just fine for my purposes. Okay, I must say that repair came out nice and even, and that looks really good. Well, I would say that that's the best one yet. That looks very, very nice. Okay, so this side of the boat is complete. Not perfect, but really good. And I would say that meets what I need this repair job to do. Now on to finishing the other side. So here is the finished boat. I repaired 12 areas that had cracking in the gel coat, and I think it came out really nice. I had I think 4 or 5 on that side and even more on this side. So not perfect, but I think the boat looks decent. In fact, some of the repairs came out really good, but definitely the integrity of the gel coat is restored and the boat's protected, and you know, because I plan on keeping this boat and using it for many years. I know that a lot of people would shy away from doing a repair like this because these boats are so dearly expensive, but I'm not a professional. I just have some basic skills and time, and repairs are very easy to do. So looks like I'm off to some more paddling adventures. See you on the water.